Hi guys and welcome back to the Average Pundits podcast, your home of all things Premier League. It seems like every time we introduce this, there's more controversial stuff to talk about with the Premier League, and God, there really is. First things first, before we say anything, breaking news as of today, that European Super League that we covered in last week's podcast is being discussed today. It's been something that has been in the pipeline for quite a while, but if you want to get the first line on it from us, go watch last week's podcast because we talk about it fully. We won't go about it too much today until we know a bit more, but we spoke about it last week. It's now officially being reported. So, Mystics, go check it out. But as always, I am joined by Reese. How you doing, Reese?
We told you so. Yeah, guys, welcome back to the Hatteridge Pundits. Yeah, you see, look at us. We're both wearing hats. I don't know what it is about the bad hair days, but here are the Average Pundits. But you know what? I might sound a bit more positive than any other Liverpool fan right now. But you know what? It's good. We're going to have a great podcast. And hope you guys are subscribed if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're watching on Spotify or listening on Spotify or Apple Music, make sure you give us a follow. And if you want to give us a little review and tell everyone else how great we are, that would be very much appreciated as well. And go follow us on our social media as well, that are in the link in the description.
Very true. And I think as of now, we're 10 away from our end of year subscriber goal. We might be able to achieve it by the end of the month. So please dig deep. If friends, family, exactly, share it around. We're very close now. So thank you very much for all the support so far. But not wasting any time, straight away, we're going to talk about 4 big games that happened over the weekend, 4 of the most interesting ones, in my opinion. We'll start off talking in my neck of the woods. We'll talk about United's 4-1 win against Newcastle. A lot better. A lot better. I mean, by no means out of the woods, but a lot more like what I am hoping for.
A lot more like Manchester United, you mean?
A lot more like what I think people remember United to be sometimes, but, it's easy to forget. But, conceding early on, it was a Shaw own goal, which started it off, which was a shame. I think De Gea could have done better. I think De Gea didn't really react, but he certainly made up for it with a couple of cracking saves later in the game. Bruno pulling the strings, Juan Mata pulling the strings, arguably putting out a man of the match performance, in my opinion. Donny coming on looking good. Rashford scoring and looking good in the game as well. Way more confident from what I've previously seen. Not going to forget what's happened lately. That's not us out of the woods, but I'm very happy, and very happy for one man in particular. Very happy for Harry Maguire. Getting that goal, pulling us level. He needed that. Let's be all honest, he needed that.
Yeah, he needed a confidence booster after the England game and everything that happened with that. And he definitely needed that goal. I think the big performance. I mean, I think a lot of man of the match shouts went to Bruno Fernandes, but let's not shy away from Marcus Rashford in that game. He got 3 goal contributions, 2 assists and 1 goal. So I think that he ran the show completely. He is showing what Marcus Rashford can do when he's driven, and what he should be doing. He should be running at defenders and creating chances for this United team. And Maguire with the goal as well, and Bruno pulling an absolute great game. But
a far more convincing Manchester United performance, one that I'm very, very thankful for, and I am delighted for the Wan-Bissaka, obviously. First goal on his 50th appearance to the club. So, fair play to him as well. Moving on swiftly, onto a bit more of an interesting game. I think the United game was good, but I think Chelsea 3, Southampton 3. There's quite a lot to talk about in this game. I didn't really see that one come in.
I mean, Timo getting off to a great start. Well, maybe not the great start. He went a few games, goals missing. Kepa's at it again, isn't he? The entire the entire build up for Che Adams' goal was oh my word! If you haven't seen us just completely slating Kepa as well, there's either a clip or you can go back to the podcast where we talk about it. And Kepa is. I think they need to start getting that. What's his name? Mendy? That's the keeper that they brought in? I think they need to get Mendy in ASAP, if I'm being completely honest. A run-of-the-mill game. Chelsea kind of threw it, if we're being honest. I mean, the Vestergaard goal in the 92nd minute. It was. You know what? As far as big games go this weekend, this was probably the second best 3-3 game of the weekend. That's for sure.
Yeah, and how often do you get to say that as well? But the second best 3-3. But I think it's good to see Timo Werner and Kai Havertz getting off the bat. I mean, a lot of people are very excited about them coming into the Premier League. Very, very much a shame they play for Chelsea, but at the same time, Chelsea have got themselves two absolutely fantastic young players, and seeing them, seeing what they can produce, hopefully a lot more frequently in the Premier League, it kind of leads up to hopefully a very interesting season at the top of the table for the goals. But moving swiftly on again, the most important 3-3 of the weekend: Spurs 3, West Ham 3.
Sorry, Spurs fans. I'm just gonna mention one name to give you a lot of bit of nightmare now. Lanzini! What a rocket! What a goal!
Goal of the season already. Like they had to beat that.
Reece James's was pretty good.
Reece James's was good. It's Reece James and Lanzini already, man. Like how on earth? Like there were some really good goals this weekend, but that was just obscene. There was no need.
I think Lanzini's. I think Lanzini's is probably a bit better.
I'd say Lanzini's maybe just puts out there just for the limbs of the game. But Kane and Son early on pulling the strings, as so often, they are just so good. They're so good. Like Harry Kane, I think is going to have a very good season. If Spurs can keep the form up, I think he's in for a very, very good season for goals and assists. And Son, he's looking like more of the complete attacker every day. I mean, we put a poll up on our Instagram. If you don't follow, jump on the Instagram to try and check out these polls we put up. But the poll we put on was saying like, do you think Son is there yet, or do you think it takes a bit of time for giving that world class status? And everyone agreed world class. I mean, I think he's up there. I really think he is.
He's world class. He's absolutely world class. And if you don't agree with that, then you're not a football fan, because you can see in the way that he plays, the way that he dribbles past defenders, the way he goes at defenders, the way he shoots the ball, the way he conducts himself on and off the pitch. He's a world-class player, no doubt, and I think that anyone would be in the Premier League or outside the Premier League would be lucky to have a player like Heung-min Son in the side. And I think that as far as Korean players go now, there's quite a few pretty good players that are coming through in the ranks in Korea. So I mean, you've got Hwang Hee-chan who's just made his move to the Bundesliga, and there's a lot more other Korean stars. So Heung-min Son is paving the way for a lot of those other talents to come through.
Yeah, without doubt. I mean, it was only, last year that we did the episode on marketable footballers. Again, if you haven't checked that out, go back and have a look at that one, because we talk a lot about Son's impact, not just on football, but on cultural impacts and how big he is in the Asian market, and bringing that fan base over to the UK. I mean, the man's a god. The man is a god in South Korea.
Definitely.
I mean, his performances on the pitch are only getting better, but equally matched by West Ham. Good Balbuena goal to get them into the game, and then that Davinson Sanchez own goal.
It was a bit of a it wasn't Davinson Sanchez's brightest moment as a player. When he first started at Spurs, he had a very high ceiling, and I'm not knocking his ability as a defender and where his ceiling is. I just think that he's not maybe potentially going for the heights that a lot of Spurs fans heralded him to have.
Possibly not. I mean, I think I first remember seeing him properly in the United's game against Ajax in the Europa League final. I thought he was probably the brightest player on the pitch, But I mean, he is tipped for big things. Hopefully, he can make a turn of it. I think he's got the potential.
Definitely. And with we mentioned in the United game, we mentioned Heung-min Son a lot for the Spurs team. We mentioned Harry Kane, but like as an off thing, he had 3 goal contributions as well. He had the 2 goals and he had an assist. So I think he had a very big role to play in this draw, and for them being 3-0 up, the less said about this. Well, I mean, more said about the second half, the more we can induce nightmares for Spurs fans.
Yeah, definitely so. Definitely so. Repeat nightmares. It was definitely a game to forget, and I'm sure there are a few people tuning in, Spurs fans, who may not be as happy at the moment, but I'm sure they will get back up and firing very soon. But moving on again, a Midlands derby over the weekend. Not the most exciting scoreline, but a very, very good win for Aston Villa, 1-0 against Leicester. And Aston Villa are now in Europe's top 5 leagues, the only team that hasn't dropped points.
Yeah.
They're a game in hand.
That is incredible.
Absolutely incredible. I think the players that they brought in, the business they've done. I mean, Ross Barkley, last minute loan move from Chelsea, and he's the one who bagged the goal yesterday. And and he scored against Liverpool as well in the 7-2.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're looking all right, Villa. I mean, I'd predict Villa to go down. Who knows?
Yeah, they've got more wins than I actually thought they would ever get in the Premier League at this point. So, Uh, yeah, unless they go on a really downward spiral, they're going to be finishing the top half of the table. They're going to be doing what Wolves did. Yeah, Wolves are aiming to do. They're going to be doing what Sheffield United did. They might do a Leicester. They're going to go from relegation candidates to winning the blimmin' league. It's going to be horrendous.
But I mean, I think a lot of this is spearheaded by tying Jack Grealish down to that 5-year deal. I mean, great bit of business. I mean, we spoke a little bit whether it was to kind of angle a bit more money for him when he does leave, but at the moment, I mean, why would he? I mean, he seems to be fit and firing at the moment. Part of a good team. Room to grow as well. So I think at the moment, I think it's quite a good place for him.
Yeah, I mean, if Villa are pulling out results like this against sides like Leicester, why wouldn't you want to stay there? The momentum's with Villa, especially after Jack Grealish signs that contract. And yeah, like I just said, the momentum is there with Aston Villa to keep this going. Their goal difference, I'm pretty sure, is the most of any team in the Premier League right now. They've got a goal difference of 10. They sit on 12 points just behind Everton, 1 point with a game in hand. And if Villa can win that game in hand, there's no ceiling for this Villa team at the moment. And they can go above and beyond. And if it's starting to look like what the League One was back in the 80s and stuff like that, where Everton and Villa were running free. So this Premier League season is very unpredictable. Absolutely, it's quite fun, but for reasons we're going to go to in a minute, it's not so fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, VAR obviously the main topic overshadowing a lot of the results this weekend. I mean, one thing quickly as well. I mean, we spoke about Leicester City and Villa that game, but in the Tottenham game, obviously, we had Gareth Bale's return to the Premier League, which was completely overshadowed, which is also very interesting to see. But VAR led the headlines.
Mm-hmm. Always will be. Always do. When it's a thing is, I've said this. I said this to multiple people. Okay, VAR can mess up in certain games, but VAR should not mess up in a derby. VAR should not be wrong in a derby, otherwise it's gonna. I think you just ruin like a lot of football games. Like if it was the North London derby, if VAR made a horrible call like this, I think it'd be up. Like, you just ruin the game. Like derby days are supposed to be good. They're supposed to be really tense.
Well, I mean, in terms of the interestingness of the game, I mean, it was a good little result too. If you don't know what we're on about yet, 2-2 Everton-Liverpool. Everton keeping up the form. Liverpool struggling a little bit at the moment, but as we said, the headlines are VAR and Virgil van Dijk, who we can now confirm is out for like 8-9 months.
Yeah, he's out for the rest of the season.
Which is obviously heartbreaking for Liverpool fans.
Yeah.
It's a shame. You should never sit there and celebrate an injury. You really shouldn't. I mean, it's a shame for Liverpool fans. Obviously, it's a huge tool in the other clubs' arsenals. They say, okay, this is a big asset of Liverpool Football Club that they don't have, which I think a lot of clubs will be thankful for. But in terms of Virgil van Dijk and his rehabilitation and stuff, it's going to be grueling. It wasn't a nice injury.
No, it was horrible. ACL injury, which you're never the same after an ACL injury. A lot of athletes will tell you that. ACL tears and ACL, just injuries in general, they are horrible. And Van Dijk is not going to be the same player after this injury. There's not a chance. He's not going to come back to the Liverpool side and be the same Virgil van Dijk that we see now. He's going to be a lot more cautious. He's going to be a lot more careful. And I think that this is going to shake Liverpool to its core. And whether Liverpool now regret not getting a centre-back like I actually said they should in the transfer window, just in case something like this happens. You can't ever guarantee that your full 11, like starting 11, is ever going to stay fit. And that's why they needed a lot more defensive reinforcements, especially with the sale of Dejan Lovren. What if Joe Gomez now goes and gets injured? Who have we got as centre-back? Matip is there.
I guess your options is, potentially what we spoke. I think it was David Lynch in the Liverpool special. Again, check that out if you haven't seen it. I think he was the one who was saying that Fabinho was tipped to potentially go back into that defensive role. But I guess we might be seeing that deployed far more earlier than we expected.
Yeah, and I do think Fabinho can play a great game in centre-back, but it's that depth that we shouldn't have to take midfielders out of the midfield and put them into centre-back. It's exactly the same why we bought the Greek left-back in, because we kept deploying, say if Robertson wasn't fit, we kept deploying James Milner there. And we can't keep putting midfielders that can just do a shift in defence. And we can't just keep keep redeploying them because they're not defensive-minded players. Unlike, Virgil van Dijk, it's going to be a massive hole to fill, and there's big boots to fill if Fabinho comes into that role because, Fabinho's fantastic at defending, but he's not Virgil van Dijk yet because he is still young.
Well, I mean, Tsimikas, Thiago, and Jota, I think that was your summer, wasn't it? I mean, on face, it's a very good summer. The same with a lot of clubs, but a lot of the time, bringing in good names and talent from elsewhere in the league, it can sometimes distract you from where it's needed. I mean, I know it certainly does with United. I mean, we were crying out for a defender, and I think Liverpool definitely needed some more just reinforcements. But I mean, here we are now. I mean, Alisson's still out, Adrian's still in goal, and he's not looking like the guy to lead you forward. But that's who you've got, isn't it? That's who you've got to work with. And
maybe a swift recall of Karius on loan.
It could well be. It could well be, mate. But I mean, Michael Keane, starting the scoring off for Everton, Mane scoring early on, and then it was Salah, and then it was Calvert-Lewin, wasn't it, who got the other goal? And Calvert-Lewin's still in absolutely fantastic form. What a striker he is at the moment. He's scoring for England, scoring for club. He's to me, he's looking absolutely fantastic. I mean, I don't know where it's going to stop. I mean, we've got strikers like him, we've got strikers like Danny Ings, Kane. England have got a lot of good strikers at the moment. So I think fair play to Calvert-Lewin for keeping up this form, especially in a game like this when it's extremely needed. And then Richarlison obviously getting the red card in the 90th minute. But the Virgil van Dijk injury we are talking about came in the result of a clash with the Everton keeper Jordan Pickford. It seemed to be, based on what it was on first sight, and then second, third, fourth, fifth sight, he does go in extremely recklessly, completely wipes him out. But it was that it was ruled. Was it because it was an offside call, or was it because?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, it didn't get called in the end, but either way, something ruled out, meaning that passage of play was essentially legal. Well, not advisable, but legal. And then everyone, I think, was just left there scratching their heads. The same as every VAR incident, really, we seem to be saying at the moment. They were kind of like, well, what on earth just occurred there?
Well, I'm just going to raise this point here, okay? The same VAR ref that did this has just been reinstated after being suspended after making a horrible VAR call. So I can't remember his name. He's very irrelevant because he's a horrible referee. And like, I'm pretty sure it was Liverpool Burnley maybe last season. I can't remember the incident. I just remember the game. He was suspended after that for making a horrible VAR call, and he's done the exact same. He's arguably two horrible VAR calls in one game. The one that stands out is this Pickford one. Now, a lot of people are pointing to when Mane, when he got sent off against Man City before Liverpool got absolutely thrashed in 2017. And, he didn't get any further punishment after that game. I'm not saying that he shouldn't have, but I'm saying that the fact that Pickford hasn't had any action afterwards, that an investigation hasn't been put in and be like, yeah, he should have been sent off in that moment, that, he shouldn't have a 3-match ban afterwards. Like, I get the fact that, it wasn't called on the day, but it's obvious that that's a horrible call.
It's a difficult call. Not difficult. I mean,
it's not difficult.
It's a stupid call, but and we can look on that in hindsight and say, that's ridiculous. And how it wasn't called at the time is something that we, how on earth are we going to know that? I mean, it's just beyond belief. But the thing that I will say is that once it's happened, obviously, I think it is the right thing for them to do, to come out and say we made a mistake. But it's really difficult then enforcing reinstations and like bans afterwards, after the incident occurred off the pitch. Because then I think there's all sorts of appeals that go on. I think then, because red cards get appealed, all the time anyway. So I think that just would elongate the process to the point of just absolute intense pain. It would be awful just dealing with that the whole time. But I 100% agree that right now it's almost like a VAR crossroads. There's been so many other moments where it's been like, what on earth is happening? But this moment we're at now, when in a game as important as that, as the Merseyside derby, as big of a market as the Merseyside derby is, one of the most marketable derbies in England, and a player of the caliber of Virgil van Dijk, obviously, you're going to get people talking about it. So this is almost kind of like an opportunity where there could be a crossroads, and we can just look and assess this VAR situation and say, what is happening?
Yep.
We know it won't, but it almost seems like now would be the time to instate it. You know, I think we said a while ago that there's never been so many fans all on one topic. I think it was Clive Tildesley who said it on Twitter, rather. I think he put a little video on and he said he cannot understand there has never been so much movement behind a certain rule in sport, and yet so many people, you know, are getting ignored. So, you know, all these people that are coming forward about it, nobody's listening to them. And we're seeing it on social media all the time. Obviously, that's the first place you go after a game most of the time is social media. And you didn't have to look far to find some very unhappy Liverpool fans, but there's only so much ranting about it on social media is going to do. But I mean, what does happen? How do you fix it? How do you fix a problem like VAR now? How we're so far gone? How do you fix it?
Just take it out for a bit and re-look at it. I think that's a great way to look at it. Take it out because it's far from perfect. Like, I get that not everything is going to be perfect when you put it in. Nothing's perfect. Everything can be improved. Okay, there's rules that are in the game still that can be improved. The offside rules being changed every moment. And that's why, partially that VAR thing was like, oh, that's why we drew the game, because there was a horrible offside call as well. So you kind of have to look at it as like, take it out, right? And, maybe have 2 or 3 referees that are looking at it. Don't have just one that's looking over it. Have 2 or 3 that can group and give a majority vote. Or have the screen, or you know what, technology is always advanced, right? It keeps advancing. Have the referees have it give them a smartwatch. Have the feed of the VAR, like the replay, on their watch. Okay, so they don't have to go over and log to a massive screen. They can look at their watch, be like, oh yeah, that's a horrible tackle, sent off. It reduces the time, and it helps the referee keep control of the game instead of going to a studio where people are watching the game. It should be not just in the moment. It shouldn't be minutes of deliberation. The referee should just be able to be like, okay, let me have a look on my watch, watch many angles, watch many replays, decide for himself. And I think that the linesmen should have that as well, whether they've made the wrong offside calls or something like that. That should be implemented. But I think take it out. That's the only way for me at the moment.
Yeah. So we're at a stage now with VAR becoming so controversial. Every single time, there's a shout. It's never simple. It's never, okay, we're going to take a second look at that. Okay, oh, no, 100%. It's always like, oh, well, is it not? There's always so much deliberation. Or it's an evident thing and just is completely being neglected. It's not being looked at properly. But the hardest thing to get around is that it's captured on video. It's captured on video. That's the whole, it's in the name. It's video assistant. It's captured on video, and they get a chance to actually see what happened again vividly. That's the hardest thing, in my opinion, to get behind. I cannot for the life of me work out why it's so difficult. But I think right now, I think we're in for the long haul. There's other sports, in rugby where you can hear what the ref says clearly. I know there's a few sports in America which do the same thing. You can hear the officials, you can hear them talking, but it's something that the Premier League seems to be extremely reluctant on, because we have no idea what they're thinking. I mean, what on earth was said after that Pickford challenge? What on earth was said after that? It wasn't just like, oh God, is he okay? Is there? Oh no, he's fine. Yeah, oh Van Dijk, is he all right? Oh, he'll probably be fine. We don't know what's being said, which makes it even more frustrating as fans. And I think that is the biggest thing, the lack of communication between the referees and between the people watching the game, the other players on the pitch, the fans, the people who are invested in the club, the shareholders, the stakeholders, everyone that's invested in football. That's the thing which is the most frustrating, the lack of communication. It's breaking down, and without the communication, how on earth are fans expected to be on the side of the refs? They're never going to win, are they? Never going to win.
No, I think you're completely right, and yeah, it's just something that was put in place because they thought they needed it immediately. There was no thought into it. There was nothing to say, look, yeah, the guy, like, the FA didn't step in and was like, okay, it doesn't meet these certain guidelines. There weren't guidelines put in place beforehand, before the rule was put in, before VAR was put in. Yeah, it worked fine in the World Cup. Like, there wasn't too many incidents, really. It was always building up tension when the referee ran over to the screen and you holding your pint down at the sports bar, and you're like, oh. But no, like, there's not. We've had enough now. It's nothing like that anymore. There are still horrible, even with the help of replays, horrible mistakes are being made, like this one, and even still with Henderson's goal at the end. No, not offside at all. If you're talking about offside, his hand, you can't score with your hand. That's the thing. So if you're talking about if his arm is offside, no. I could understand if he's. The thing is, if you're offside by a millimetre of your boot, understandable, because you can score with your boot. If it's a centimetre or even just your hand is like that and the line cuts off here, that's fine, because you cannot score with your arm. So what's the point? It's ridiculous. And as I mentioned before, they keep changing the offside rules. I don't know what we're going to do at this point. I think it's a lost cause.
It could well be. I mean, we want to know what you guys think. You know, this has been very much a very to the point episode of the Average Pundits. You know, if something big happened, we react to it. That's the formula. But this one here is more of a case of one where it's like, okay, what is happening now? So please get in touch with us on all social media platforms. We have Facebook, we have Twitter, Instagram. Twitter, we're at Pundits Average. Instagram, we're at the Average Pundits. Facebook, we're at the same name. You can get a hold of us on YouTube. You can get a hold of us on our email as well at theaveragepundits@outlook.com. Please like and subscribe. Please share this video. Please get involved, because we're very close to hitting this goal, but also this is a topic that we really want to know your guys' opinions of. So keep an eye on the social media for any updates and stuff like that. Reece, we're going to have to hope that next week there's none of these incidents to talk about.
If another Liverpool player gets injured by the end of next week, I think I might just have to quit football. I'm gonna go start watching some water polo. I'll see you later, lads.
Yeah, for average water polo, you know, that's been in the pipeline for we'll get that sorted. But thank you very much, guys. As always, we will see you next time.